Thank you for staying with us. Nigeria's national grid has been facing frequent collapse, with 10 reported incidents from January to November the 7th. The situation has led to widespread power outages, impacting millions of people. In response, at least 12 states have taken the initiative to invest in independent power plants, aiming to secure a stable and affordable power supply. These states believe that this approach will provide them with greater control over their energy production and distribution, thereby reducing their reliance on the national grid. We're joined via Zoom for this conversation by Adeola Yusuf, team lead at Platforms Africa. Adeola, good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Good morning. Always my pleasure to be on the program.
Great. Now, states have decided to take the bull by the horn. A lot of Nigerians have been expecting that some of the states who they feel seem to have the power to take up this responsibility or take up this giant stride would have done this before now. But we are beginning to see some semblance that some of these states are saying, you know what, let's do what we should have done all the while. What do you make of it?
Okay, so it's a very beautiful and laudable effort. Just like you have alluded to, a lot of Nigerians have been expecting that. And it's important that I quickly remind us that this is not the first time that states are taking initiative or taking a serious move to make serious investment in the power value chain. We are aware of the Ibom power, by the Akwa Ibom state. This has been in existence for a long time. So it's not now that we are having, and there is another one, by the Rivers State government. So this is not the first time that states are taking active role in the power sector. But this one becomes even newsworthy because more states are, showing interest in ensuring that, they take part in this. And like you have said, is a laudable, effort. Everyone expects that. But fact of the matter is that we need to say this is not to address the incessant collapse of the national grid. Because Nigerians will come to understand that, in the power value chain, before you press the switch in your room to light the bulb in your room, a lot of things could have, must have, happened. And these things are stratified into 3 stages. The first one is the generation stage. And as the name connotes, where power is being manufactured. In Nigeria, we have the thermal power plant, which is, generation of electricity to gas. We have the hydro through the, the water and other, resources. So that one is the first stage. That stage is the stage that the states are trying to, make investment into now, and which is very, very laudable. But I remind everyone that, the issue with power grid is not the lack of power generation or lack of, effective power generation. But I'll come to that. So the second stage of that, stratification is the transmission, which is, because those power are generated at a very, very high, megawatt, are very injurious to human. Human cannot interface with those power as they are being generated. Okay, so it needs to be stepped down, and it will be taken to, various areas of the country where it will be stepped down. And what this, it is all about is that the transmission is one that takes part indeed. So you can, Nigerians listening to us can, or people listening to us can see the skeletal looking, transmission lines scattered across the country. Some figures says it's about 5 kilometers of transmission spread across the country. So that one is the transmission. So what that will do is to take it from the generation to, substation. And from that substation, they'll step it down and they'll take it to various transformers in our various communities. So by the time it gets to that transformer, it becomes the property of the distribution. Then from there, they'll step down at the transformers, and from that transformer, they'll take it into our various schools before it becomes something that. So that first stage is the distribution. So those are the 3 major stratifications in the power sector. So what is happening, to the grid, we need to be very, very clear about that, is that the grid has been having issue because it's the link between the generation and the distribution. A lot of people have called it the weak link between the generation and the distribution. So the investment that the governors are making, it has to be very clear, except, they are taking the full, chain into consideration. If they have generated that power, they are not dumping it into the national grid. They are using it, they are transmitting it. They are distributing it directly to the communities. That is the only way it will be out of the embarrassment of the national grid. Because the more you dump electricity into the national grid, the more incidents of collapse you are likely to have. And I'm saying this based on statistics. There was a time that Egbin Power complained that they are not generating up to their capacity because transmission has been telling us not to generate. Because anytime they put the capacity of that transmission, as we are aware of, is about 5,000, 4,500, 5,000 megawatts. So anytime generation goes beyond that and they dump that on the grid, it collapses because it's an engineering hardware. So it is very important that efforts of the governors are very, very laudable, but they need to tackle it from the onset to ensure that what they are generating through that their investment is not being dumped into the national grid. They ensure that they finalize investment into all the value chains so that their people will truly enjoy the investment they're trying to do.
All right, so talking about investment in the value chains now, my own point here will be looking at it from the private sector point of view. And some private initiatives are coming up to provide power in some smaller communities in different parts of the country. Now, what kind of incentives can the federal government give or state government give to encourage private sector investment in state-level power projects and power plants? Because we know that some state governors will not be able to set up power plants. So what can these state governors, what kind of incentives can they give to private initiatives to encourage them to set up power plants in their various states?
Thank you very much. Let me start from the last comment you made about, some states may not be able to take part in this. I don't believe that, and I don't share that opinion. Okay. The reason being that, there is different types of, generation, formats. Allow me to put it that way. There is no state in Nigeria that don't have the resources to generate energy. If you do not have the gas, you will have the sun. There is the solar provision. If you don't have the sun, of course, there is no state that doesn't have the sun. You will have the wind. So it depends on the area of strength. You do this, your SWOT analysis first, then you know areas you are going to invest in. All the states, the 36 we have in Nigeria, should take part in ensuring that there is energy security for their people. Already there is a legal backing for them. The Electricity Act signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has given them that leeway, that freedom. Before that time, no state can generate, if you generate more than 100, megawatts, you must take it to the national grid. But with that, electricity bill, there have been that liberty given to us. So I want to first of all address that statement that all the states should take part in ensuring that there is energy security. That's number one. Number two, I believe that business of power or energy, if you want to put it under that umbrella, should be incentivized. If there is that money from government or from maybe federal government or state government, even local government or even private investment or investors, it should be incentivized. And the reason for incentives on things is to encourage investment. So if the intention is to encourage investment, it can be incentivized, provided there is that financial buoyancy, that financial power on the part of those that want to put incentive on those investments. But I share the opinion that it can be incentivized, provided all those other variables are put into check. So that is to say that power generation already, my people that we are, and everyone listening to us, all of us are already taking part in power generation. It may not be at the level of grid, but you virtually you see any house in Lagos or Abuja or any of those metropolitan cities, without a generator. What you are doing by that is that you are providing electricity, even though it's at a very, minimal, kilowatt per hour. but everyone is already taking part of it. So if we are having 3 or 4 people that have more power, more financial capability to put finances together or resources together, and they are looking for opportunity from the government, I believe that government can incentivize, government can look at areas to help them, to ensure that, Nigerians have, that energy security. Is an embarrassing statistic if you start rolling it out. Over 200 million people. We are still bordering about, we are still struggling, with 3,500 megawatts of electricity, over 200 million people. And the population keeps, expanding and enlarging. So we need this electricity, sector is a sector that needs investment. And I assure you, based on the fact that government has liberalized, the tariff regime in the electricity, I don't believe anyone can, will have that money to make investments in the electricity sector and will now make a return on its investment. So I agree absolutely that if there is that power to incentivize, the government should truly encourage investors in that power, value chain investment.
Adiola, the question I want to ask is it so difficult for us to diversify? In the north, we have the sun. Around the southwest, south, we have water, we have wind, and here we are still struggling and scrambling for the transmission of power. Like you mentioned, it has become embarrassing. What really is the challenge? Why are we finding it difficult for us to diversify?
Okay, thank you very much. It's a portfolio of a lot of reasons, but about 3 of them that I need to highlight. Number one, over the years, there has been, and I'm able to say this, there has been, insincerity, lack of sincerity on the part of, government and people managing the power sector over the years. And that is so evident in the fact that we keep changing names, thinking that the name, are truly the problem. Remember, it started from the power company. It migrated or changed to NEPA, changed from NEPA to the PHCN. Then before we start, the disco. So it shows clearly that there has been this trial and error trying to look for solutions. And, maybe over the years, we were thinking the problem with the power sector, is truly the name the, electricity company has been bearing. So there is that lack of, sincerity. That's number one. Number two, you cannot rule out corruption in that sector. It has been serious, it has been serious bed, for corruption or corrupt practices over the years. Number three, lack of political will on the part of those that are ruling us over the years. But we thank God that, we are seeing things because we will say the truth. There is a change. We will have to say it. It's not all the time we condemn. In fact, I know that government has not done up to what we expect them to do, but there has been a lot of, things that the government has done. One of them is the Electricity Act. Before now, I said it earlier, before now, if you, as an estate or anyone, if you generate over 100 megawatts, you must take it to the national grid. Unfortunately, this national grid keeps collapsing. So now, to not take it to the issue, because we are talking of solution now, of the issues that we're talking now, which is the national grid. The problem with the national grid, remember part of the effort that the government has made about 5 days ago, when Nigeria recorded the ninth grid collapse in the year 2024, the Minister of Power, Adelabu, announced setting up of a forensic panel to look into the issues with the grid. And I tell you that this is not the first time we are having a panel looking into the collapse of the national grid. Over the years, we have been having panels on panels. But maybe what makes Minister Adelabu's own difference is because he puts the name forensic in it. The forensic has not even finished, gathering to meet and, come up with the result before we recorded the 10th, collapse. That tells you a lot about that collapse. But, to say the truth and to be solution-centric about this grid, the minister too has confirmed the first issues with the grid. Those facilities are too old and frail. They are outdated. the grid. Remember that the government, when it was on Friday, the 1st of November 2013, when the government was doing what we call the privatization of the power, government privatized the generation that I mentioned earlier, privatized the distribution that I talked about earlier, but still left the transmission in its armpit. So government is still the one controlling the transmission, up till now. Even though there has been efforts, promises, here and there to ensure that, they liberalize the transmission. But government is still the one holding this transmission in its armpit. And we have been saying it. We need investment in that transmission. The World Bank loan has been assessed for that transmission. A lot of efforts have been, but we are not seeing results yet. So we need more investment in that. If the minister has come out to confirm that.
Yes, let me just quickly, interrupt your line of thought. Are you saying that if government hands off transmission, it would work?
Okay, so what I'm saying actually is that what the government needs to do is to liberalize the transmission. It is not necessarily that, of course, there are, school of thought that government has no business in business. There is another school of thought that government cannot leave the transmission or leave the entire power sector into the hands of the private sector because, it's the national security. People make that argument. My own is not to say government can't it up or government should hold on to it, but government needs to liberalize it. And what that means is that government should encourage, investment into that transmission. If the minister has come to confirm that the transmission facilities are old, they are frail, we need investment. If the government can afford that investment, government should invest in it. What we need to do is to total overhaul of the transmission. That's number one. Number two, it doesn't make any economic or security sense for us to have a national grid, to have just one grid. So let's just put our mind out of the incessant grid collapse that we are having now and the real reason for it. If the enemy of Nigeria, God forbid, want to put everyone in darkness, what they will just do is to attack the national grid and everyone will be in darkness. It doesn't make any sense. Why don't we have a smaller grid, what we call the regional grid? And on occasions I've been advocating this over and over the years. Why don't we have regional grid? Why don't we have grid in the southwest, grid in the northeast, grid in the south-south, grid in the southeast, different grids like that? So that if there is a problem with the grid, for instance, in the southwest, we will isolate that grid and easily fix the problem with that grid. Why do we need to have just one grid supplying the whole of Nigeria? It doesn't. So this thing is just mechanical or engineering, design. So we don't need national grid. It doesn't. We are just lying about that. Why don't we have smaller grids? If you can still call it national, you can call it. But why don't we have smaller grids? So that if there is a problem with the grid in the north, or remember about a few days ago, there is an electricity supply problem in the north. It was not affecting the southwest, south, and other parts of the country. And if there is a problem, when we have a super grid or the smaller grid, if there's a problem with the grid in the south or the southeast or southwest, it won't affect the north. So it will help in fixing the problem. You can easily identify, isolate and rectify. So those are the things we need to do and be serious about.
Let me take you on the issue you have raised on liberalization of the power sector. Now, if we have to liberalize the power sector, it will lead to fair competition, improved efficiency, new investment. But will that translate to lower prices?
For tariff.
Of course, definitely. We all understand, definitely. We all understand the simple, economic, policy, or the simple economic, template. The more, if you have, it's a supply, demand, pricing, template. Everyone understands this. It's even elementary economics. When the demand is more than the supply, the price will go up naturally. When the supply is more than the demand, the price will come down. It is so natural and it's a principle that is applicable everywhere in the world. So if you have more power generation, we have more power generation. We have the way that can be transmitted and it gets to our various homes. of course, definitely to affect the price, and there will be that competition. Go to, other parts of the country, I'm talking of the West, for instance. The sector has been so liberalized to the fact that this month you can use, electricity, you can buy the token from one distribution company, that is, one distribution company, and the next month you can say you are not satisfied with that. You check the token to another distribution company. Those are the things we need in Nigeria. Except that is done, of course, we will keep seeing differences and improvement. But except that is done, that is when we can get to where we are aspiring to get to. So there is that need for liberalization. And quickly, let me make this point. Over the years, I've listened to a lot of people, when they are analyzing the power sector and trying to, particularly when they were trying to convince us to accept the, hike in tariff. They will say, okay, it's going up, but by the time that, things get to shape, it will come down, and they will start trying to, relate that to what happened at the IT sector, at the,
Our time is up, Diola.
IT sector, telecommunication sector. Okay.
Yes.
So thanks so much for having me, but remains that.
I wanted you to go straight to your point, but then time is not our friend. Adiola Yusuf, team lead at Platforms Africa, thank you so much for your insight on this matter of national grid collapse. Thank you so much.
My pleasure always. Thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Right.